The file wasn't supposed to exist. It was marked ghost entry in the system. No author, no timestamp, no access log. Just a blank placeholder in the National Records grid, taking up space like a scar the code had tried to forget. I only found it because I was looking for something else. A requisition slip from 1996. I'd traced it through 4 databases, all dead ends, until I opened archive node D-223 and saw it sitting there. No name, just one tag. Epoch event / removed. My name is Ansel Merrin. I'm an archivist for the Bureau of Federal Memory. We don't make records, we don't investigate, we don't redact. We preserve raw, unjudged, uncorrected history. At least that's what I believed, until that night. When I clicked on the file, nothing opened, but the lights above me flickered. The terminal buzzed, just once, and the name field populated itself. Whitaker, L. I ran the name. Nothing in public records. No match in birth logs, census, or known incidents. A clean void. But something about the last name itched, familiar, like a half-remembered dream. I leaned back in my chair. Cold air brushed my neck. I turned. No one there. Just row after row of sealed archives, floor to ceiling, blinking green. Then a new file appeared in my queue. No request. No sender. It was a photo, scanned from a physical record. Black and white, low resolution. A group of children standing outside a 2-story brick building with boarded windows. In the center, a girl with a bandage across her forehead. Below it, written in faded pencil. L. Whitaker, last to leave. I checked the building's location tag. It pointed to a decommissioned school in Northbridge, Oregon, burned in 1985. No fire report, no insurance claim, no government mention. But I'd seen it before. In another file, a restricted case, buried under a different name. Project Echo Leaf. That project was supposed to be sealed for 100 years. I tried to access it. Denied. I requested a trace on who approved the ghost entry. Response came back with just one word. Self. I hadn't done that. And if I didn't, who was already editing the past beneath my fingertips? The next morning, my terminal refused to boot. Not crashed. Wiped. All queries related to Whitaker, Epoch Event, and Echo Leaf were gone from the local cache. Even the paper logs, printed nightly, signed, had been replaced with a single line in red marker. You didn't see anything, but someone forgot about Subbasement Vault E. Most archivists don't even know it exists. It's not on the department map. The access door is disguised as a wall panel behind row 47. I only knew because years ago, before his transfer, my mentor showed me how to force it open. You ever need the truth? He said. Check where the records go to rot. I used his old badge. Still worked. The vault smelled like mold and rusted film. No lights. Just a hand crank flashlight, and row after row of physical tapes in crushed boxes, misprinted labels, melted barcode stickers. None of it indexed. I was almost ready to leave when I saw the reel. It sat alone, wrapped in foil. No title. Someone had written on it with wax pencil. L. Whitaker /10.1 2.85 /unconfirmed transmission. I carried it upstairs like it was ticking. Found an old reel-to-digital deck in the audio suite. Plugged in the headphones. Silence. Static. Then, click. A voice. A girl's voice. Strained. Echoing. I think this is day 6. There's no food left. Mr. Halcombe locked the door from outside. We can hear, humming. Sometimes the walls shake. Then a pause. They said the test would stop. They didn't stop. They changed us instead. The tape crackled violently. Screeching tones layered beneath her voice. Frequencies I couldn't track. A pattern. A sequence. And at the end, if someone finds this, tell them we weren't wrong. We were just early. Then silence. I checked the waveform. The audio wasn't a voice recording. It was a signal structure, the kind used in low-band military comms, hidden beneath speech, encrypted. I ran a decryption pass through the old NSA emulator. After 10 minutes, it returned one sentence. Echo leaf status. Dormant, not terminated. My hands were shaking. Then the terminal went black, and in its place, on the screen, a single blinking prompt. Ansel Merrin. Do you consent to remember? Yes. I didn't even hesitate. The word typed itself. Or maybe I typed it, but it felt inevitable. The moment I hit return, the terminal didn't display a file or a key or a classified link. It displayed an image. A hallway. Blue tile. Pale walls. The exact corridor from the photo of Whitaker outside the burned-out school. But I'd never been to Oregon. Except, I had. The moment I saw the image, my chest locked. My breath shortened. I tasted metal. My left hand twitched in a familiar pattern. Not random. Muscle memory. 6 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. The echo leaf signal. I didn't learn it. I had it. The screen changed. A location. Coordinates burned into static. 45.1796 degrees north. 122.8134 degrees W. Return to route. I traced the coordinates. Remote. Forested. A place called Long Hollow, Oregon. Abandoned federal property. Still under restricted aerial classification. No current structures. Just a note in the corner of the page. Federal soil violation. 1985. Investigation sealed. I filed a fake travel request for a special collections audit, Region 7. No one questioned it. Archivists don't make waves. We're ghosts in cardigans. I flew out the next day. Long Hollow wasn't on the map, but the tree line matched the photos from the archived reel. The deeper I walked, the quieter the world became. No birds, no wind, just stillness. Like memory. Then I found the foundation. Concrete footings, scorched black. Brick outlines barely visible beneath vines. Something had tried to bury the structure, and nature helped it forget. But I hadn't. Not anymore. My hand touched the wall. And it wasn't the first time. The echo hit like a concussion. Laughter in a basement, wires overhead, a smell like iron and sugar, a girl screaming behind a steel door, a voice whispering to me in a language I hadn't known until now. Whitaker. She wasn't the subject. She was the sender. The tape wasn't a warning. It was a beacon, calling someone. Calling me. And then I heard it again. That humming. Low. Mechanical. From beneath my feet. The humming wasn't in my ears. It was in my teeth. Vibrations rising through the soles of my boots, pulsing just below the concrete like a heartbeat waiting to be heard again. I found the hatch near the southeast wall, covered in vines and moss, camouflaged by time. A handle so rusted it shouldn't have turned, but it did. Smooth. Too smooth, like someone had opened it recently. I dropped down slowly. 10 feet underground, the stairs ended in metal. A narrow hallway. Lights long dead, but emergency phosphorescence clung to the edges like ghost trails. At the far end, a sealed door. Heavy. Federal. The kind they used for lockdown rooms, not archives. Above the frame, a faded stencil. ECHOLEAF/CHR09. I touched the panel beside the door. Dead. But my hand twitched again. That rhythm. 6 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. I tapped it into the steel. Nothing. Then a click. The door slid open. Behind it, cold air, still humming. The room inside was intact. Shelves, desks, terminals. Power source. External generator still feeding minimal voltage. The walls were covered in panels, most dark. One glowed faintly. A central console. I approached. The screen flashed. "Welcome back, Merrin_001." I didn't flinch, because I already knew. This wasn't my first time here. I'd been a subject. Or control. I sat down. The console buzzed under my fingers. The interface was old, pre-OS, pure command line, but my hands moved without hesitation. Access log? Yes. Subject status. 004. Active. Name. Whitaker. Lena. Last response. 72 hours ago. Location. Unknown. Trace. Why? The terminal blinked. Static. Then a response. Signal contained. Subject inhibited. Memory locked for safety. Deactivate lock? I hovered over the command. If I answered yes, I'd be releasing whatever had kept her memory. And mine, buried. Whatever Project Echo Leaf had used us for. Then another line appeared. No command. She knew you'd come. I hit enter. The hum stopped. Somewhere deeper inside the complex, I heard a door unlock. Not one I opened. One, someone else had been waiting behind. The door that opened was older than the rest. Manual, sealed with an internal latch. As I stepped inside, the hum vanished completely. In its place, breath. Shallow. Controlled. She was standing in the center of the room. Lena Whitaker. Alive. Not young, not old. Ageless in that terrifying way children become when time forgets how to handle them. Her hair was buzzed short. Skin pale. Eyes fixed on a wall of projections. Flickering moments. Looping endlessly. A birthday. A fire. The hallway. My face. She didn't turn. "I tried not to call you," she said. My voice caught. "How are you still here?" She touched one of the loops. My childhood face laughed soundlessly. "I never left. They locked the signal in me. When the others failed, they made me the broadcast. The footage on the wall glitched, then reset." "The project wasn't about memory storage," she said. "It was about persistence, what the mind could transmit when it was pushed past forgetting." "But why me?" "Because you remembered too much. Then they wiped you. But your pattern didn't break." She turned. Her eyes weren't haunted. They were lit from the inside. "I left that page for you. In the vault. In the tape. I left all of it." "You wrote the file?" She nodded. "Every time I looped back, I tried something different. Eventually, I learned how to drop crumbs." I stepped closer. "You're saying all of this is a loop?" "No," she pointed at the wall. "This is the loop. We're just the echoes that learned how to respond." The screen behind her flashed, "Signal restored. Archivist active. Narrative ready." She smiled. "It's your turn. What do I do?" Lena handed me a card. Simple, blank, but I could feel the weight of it. The same card I'd carried as a child, back when I first visited the school, the day I was taken. On the back, a handwritten line. This time, remember all of it. The screen behind her blinked off, then back on. It displayed one final command. Greater than record new version? Why hin? The moment I hit enter, the lights dimmed. Not failing, but dimming on purpose. The walls pulsed once, like they had exhaled. The screen faded, replaced by a live feed from inside the facility. Hallway, archive, sub-basement. Every camera was watching me now. Lena stepped back into the dark, her eyes locked on mine. "Once the new version starts," she said, "you can't unrecord it." "I know. You're not just remembering. You're replacing." I opened the blank card. It had begun to write itself in faint ink. Not printed, drawn, handwriting I recognized. My own. Moments I hadn't lived yet, or had. Across iterations. across loops, every version of me that had tried before, every failure, every reset. And now, this one last chance. Why me? I asked again. She nodded toward the humming walls. Because the project wasn't looking for storage, it was looking for resonance. Someone whose memory could carry not just data, but truth, a living signal. And you? I was the key, she smiled, tired and proud, but you were always the door. A final command appeared. Greater than begin broadcast? Y and Lena reached up and pressed the Y for me. The room vibrated, a frequency so low it didn't enter the ear, it entered the mind, and the file began to write. Images, sounds, buried history, every silenced truth, every overwritten document, every child lost inside Echoleaf, beamed out across the signal net, layered into every frequency, masked inside every civilian broadcast system that had ever rerouted power through this site. It didn't scream. It echoed. Then, quiet. The feed ended. The screen turned black. Record, complete loop, terminated, version 001R. I turned to Lena. She was gone, but the humming was not. It was everywhere now. A pulse of truth, moving outward. And in the hallway, just outside the vault, the red light on the archival server blinked once, then twice, then all at once. I walked back to my terminal. The prompt was waiting. Welcome back, Merrin _001 archivist. Verified status. First author. Would you like to continue writing? I smiled. And this time I said it out loud. Yes. The first sign came 18 minutes after the broadcast ended. I was back at the bureau. Quietly. Anonymously. No alarms. No disciplinary notice. No return to sender. Just my workstation blinking like nothing had happened. But my access tree had changed. I could see everything now. Vaults previously sealed behind decades of red tape unlocked. Projects I'd only heard whispers about. Verity Furnace, North Hollow Deep, Resonant Architect. Visible in my dashboard like everyday case files. I opened the first one. Scans. Interviews. Recordings. But they were wrong. They weren't retained records. They were returning. Files were reconstructing themselves in real time. Footage re-rendering from missing film. Audio rebuilding itself from empty reels. As if the system had been waiting for the right signal to remember. I wasn't uncovering the past. The past was surfacing. By noon, 6 other archivists messaged me privately. None referenced Project Echoleaf by name. But they were asking about similar anomalies. Documents updating themselves, redacted logs restoring their ink. One just sent a photo. An old ID badge. L. Whitaker, staff. Not subject, issued 1982. In the corner, someone had scribbled, "Protocol never stopped, it just rebranded." I stared at the badge for a long time. That night, my apartment door was open. Nothing stolen. But one thing left behind. A tape recorder. Inside, a single message. Broadcast received. Echo active. Phase 2 pending. Control protocols no longer stable. Then a pause. Breathing, followed by a whisper. Do you know how many versions failed before you? I grabbed the card Lena had given me. The writing had changed. New ink, sharp and slanted. You're not just remembering the future. You're being remembered by it. I turned the recorder over. It wasn't modern. It was a model that hadn't existed since 1985. 3 days after the broadcast, the bureau started glitching. Small at first. File headers that stuttered, timestamps reappearing on documents decades out of sequence, printers coughing out transcripts no one requested. But by day 4, people began noticing. Archivists were remembering things they never lived. Nadia in cold archives wept uncontrollably at the sight of a black rotary phone. Jules from audit stopped speaking altogether, After hearing a recording of a voice that turned out to be his own, aged 50 years, screaming. They tried to call IT. The servers rejected admin access. The systems weren't broken, they were reverting. The Bureau wasn't forgetting its history. It was remembering all of it. All at once. I sat in my office, lights dimmed, monitoring the mainframe's behavior logs. The signal we sent, it wasn't just data. It was recursive, viral. Each recovered record contained instructions for reassembly, not just to store history, to restore its effect. At 3:12 p.m., my door handle turned. I hadn't buzzed anyone in. A man stood there. I'd never seen him before, but my body reacted like I had. He wore a clean bureau coat, outdated by 20 years. Badge burned off. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, flatly, "The other versions weren't as quiet as you." He walked in, set a black folio on my desk, and left. Inside, 7 sheets, each marked with a variant ID Merrin _001 through Merrin _007. Every sheet documented an outcome. In one, I triggered a cascade and collapsed the Bureau entirely. In another, I disappeared. One variant survived. Mine. But the last sheet wasn't about me. It was Lena. Subject: Whitaker, Lena. Version: 006. Status: static / locational anomaly. There was no date, no recovery log. Just a note in red. Loop reinitiated at 97% certainty. Next signal, 10:44 p.m. Do not intervene. I checked my watch. 10:41. The hallway lights flickered, and in the distance, somewhere far too close, that old, impossible humming. At 10:44 p.m., the walls groaned. Not from stress or movement, from contradiction. The Bureau wasn't designed to hold what it had just remembered. The lights overhead surged, then dimmed to red emergency tones. The terminals blinked out. One by one, they rebooted, but not to the operating system, to version history. Every error, every redaction, every repressed protocol, now unrolling like a reversed film reel. I ran towards sublevel C. The hum grew stronger with every step, threading the air like a wire through bone. The door to Vault 3 was open. Inside, her, Lena, floating 3 inches above the ground, arms slack at her sides, mouth moving in silence. Around her, time stuttered. Papers hovered mid-fall. Dust froze. The room vibrated in loops. Her eyes locked on me. "Which version are you?" she asked. 8, I said. She blinked. "Then this is the last one." The temperature dropped. Her breath. My breath. Visible now. "You triggered it," I whispered. "I stabilized it. You triggered it." Her voice wasn't angry. Just tired. I was never the anomaly, Ansel. I was the anchor. You were the one they couldn't contain. On the far wall, a terminal powered itself on merged memory core ready. Archivist 001 present. Initiate closure. YN. "I can end this," I said. "No." She stepped toward me now, barely touching the floor. "You can record it. One last time. Not with a signal, not with proof. With a story. One that can't be deleted again." I reached into my coat. The blank archival card from before had begun to write itself again. Names. Versions. Failed loops. Lena's name appeared again and again. And now, mine. She looked at me, eyes shining in that unnatural glow. I only ever wanted someone to remember right. I reached for the console. Typed, Y. The facility rumbled. A soft white light replaced the red. Around us, every failed version flickered like shadows folding inward. Lena _002, Merrin _004, Whitaker _006, Gone, but not lost. Archived. Only one chapter left. One card still blank. The hum faded. The white light steadied. Lena stood beside me now, solid, still. For the first time, she looked her age. Not suspended in looped time, not coded by recursion. Just Lena. The terminal displayed a single message. Archivist 00, one final entry open. I looked at her. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Every loop had tried to fix the past. Every version had failed, because the system wasn't built to hold truth. It was built to archive it. So I wrote. One line, we remember, because we choose to. The terminal accepted the input. No fanfare, no shutdown, just a small tone, a quiet, affirmative beep. And then the interface vanished, replaced by a blank field and a blinking prompt, record closed. Version locked. ECHOLEAF, terminated. Lena exhaled, collapsed into a chair like the gravity of everything we'd survived had just found her bones again. I sat beside her. The archive was quiet, not dead, not erased, preserved. Outside, I don't know how much the world changed. The bureau still stood. Some memories stayed buried. Most people would never know what was done to us, how many times we were overwritten to keep their timeline clean. But the record is there now. Not a broadcast, not a virus, not even proof, just a story, filed, numbered, cataloged under a new label. Project ECHOLEAF/oral history/truth unsimulated. And one card on the shelf reads, Merrin, Ansel, archivist, witness, final author, status, remembered. Sometimes, a record doesn't stop the machine, but it keeps it from running quietly. And now when the Bureau breathes, it breathes with memory,